Iraqi, and you're watching Space Chats. Today, I'm really happy to host Yasrine Ibnyahya. She's the Director of Advanced Concept and Technologies at INMARSAT and also the founder of INMARSAT Women's Network. Hi, Yasrine.
Hi, Natalia. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
It's great to host you in Space Chats and listen to your story. As you know, in Space Chats, we're discussing the space industry leaders' careers and how they started, how they developed, and I'm really looking forward to hear your experience. But first, I would like to ask you, why space industry? What do you enjoy the most about it?
I think the space industry right now is really at the perfect moment for anybody to want to work in this sector because it's extremely challenging, it's innovating, it's expanding, and we're really pushing the boundaries of space and I guess the impact it has on the world. So whether you're talking about weather forecast or telecommunications or environmental or critical infrastructure and in the future, space tourism or space explorations or manufacturing in space, all those sectors are going to expand the footprint of the space industry and the impact it has on the world. So it's a very, very good time to be working in this industry.
It is indeed amazing, and it's a lot of job prospects as well for people that want to join. But what are you the most proud of in the space industry, about your achievements?
About my achievements, it's a difficult one for me to pinpoint exactly what I am the proudest of. I would say is my current role because I had to shape it around who I am and the core values I want to bring around innovation. So I'm really proud of the way I've introduced something called the experimentation mindset in the company, which is rather than doing very big bang innovation, you kind of piecemeal it, and every step of the innovation is like a new experimentation, and you combine that with those experimentations are on one end for learning more about the concept you're developing, but also learning more about the customer and learning more about how can you achieve the right price points when you want to scale it up. So what I really like is having been given the opportunity to create a department that reflects that vision I had, and now being able to deliver that is something I'm extremely happy and proud of doing at the moment.
It is, and it's really extremely good achievement. Well done for that. Mm-hmm. And I would like to ask you more about your career, but first, can you share with us, where are you from and the space industry developed in there?
So I'm half French, half Moroccan. I was born and raised in Morocco. So the space industry in Morocco did not really exist when I grew up there. I think today there's a little bit of Earth observation activities, but it's really very, very small. So, but the good thing is I was born in an environment where the realm of the possible and the choice and options were available to me, and being also half French and having gone through a French education in Morocco, the natural evolution for me was to go to a university in France, and I chose Toulouse because it's the headquarter of space, if you want. They call it the Space Valley in Toulouse, and so that's why I chose to continue my university degrees over there to benefit from that ecosystem that is bubbling in Toulouse around space.
Oh, great. That's a great experience. And was your first job in the space industry?
Yes, I was determined that all my jobs were going to be in the space sector. So I've done all my internships in the space industry, and I had 3 jobs so far. I mean, I had many jobs, but I worked for 3 different companies so far. And I was lucky enough to have been so focused on making sure my internships and initial roles were in the space sector that it was kind of it has opened to me even more opportunities. And to give you an example, I did my internship in Toulouse in a subsidiary of the National Space Center. And 2 years later, I applied for a role where they were sending someone to the US as part of a 2 years contract. And because they remembered me from the internship 2 years before, I kind of had an advantage in the selection process, which gave me the opportunity to go then as my first real job for 2 years in Washington, D.C. So I guess what's my key message here is even an internship can have a very big impact on your career. So any job opportunity is an opportunity to secure your future if it helps you go towards the direction you want.
How long was your internship?
It was a 4 month internship. It was quite short.
Okay, so indeed, it is key to from the start thinking where you want to go and weigh the options as well. And your first job, could you share what was it?
So my first job was in this French subsidiary where they sent me for 2 years in their America office. So the company was called CLS America. And there I was a project manager of the development of a new user terminal for the maritime industry using satellite communication. So that was the first time I was exposed to terminals manufacturing, talking to space assets. I was exposed for the first time to the maritime and fishing market that relies heavily upon the satellite communication. I was exposed to the regulatory aspect as well, to file for some certifications. And it was the first time I was managing a software developer, an antenna manufacturer. So all those skills slowly helped me really understand how you build a product. So it was a very, very exciting first job, on top of living millions of kilometers away from home in a new continent in Washington. So it was a very good opportunity.
It must have been a wonderful experience indeed, and quite challenging too.
Yeah.
But what do you think helped you to get this first job in the industry? You mentioned the internship, but would you say it's the network?
What helped me get the first job is a combination of things. Is the reason why I got the job? Yes, it is because they knew who I was and they saw the quality of the work I was doing, even if it was 2 years before as an intern. But also in between, I've done something important, which is I realized that in order to have a job, an international role, I had to make sure my English was better. And as a French student, my English was quite poor, and I decided to do a double degree and go at University of Bristol and do a Master of Science, which was 100% in English with other English students. And that gave me a very strong leverage. So for me, my gap was the English, for example, and I worked on it. And I was kind of curious and lucky and determined that I wanted to work in the space sector. And at the time, I had also job offers to be like working for a consultancy company. So you had like these big contracts that tells you, oh, you're going to get super well paid, but you're going to be a consultant in Paris, for example. Or you keep on looking, and that's where I found this role 2 years in Washington, and I went for it. So it's a mix of continuing being determined, keep looking if the first jobs you get are not aligned with where you want to go, and leveraging on your previous connections, because that's what I did by leveraging on my previous internship, and also recognizing the skill set you need to acquire in order to get to the kind of roles you want. And for me, it was international roles, so it was very important.
I must admit that this is a great advice for me to follow your dreams always and keep looking for the job that we really want to do. But Yasrine, were your goals clearly defined when you started?
I think my goals have evolved every year throughout my whole career. Yes, I was determined to work in the space industry, but my understanding of the space industry, the year one of my career versus today, is completely different. And so, and also what you can do at an early stage of your career versus what you can do a bit further is also different. And so you learn what you like, what you don't like throughout your career, and you have to start somewhere. I started managing an engineering project. I started testing terminals. I was more of my time on the roof of the building testing devices than anything else. But that's how I've learned how things are being built. But throughout the years, I realized, okay, my first job was around terminals development. My second job was about satellite manufacturing. So suddenly I'm getting a view of what's happening in the space asset. And then I moved to another job, which was more on the operator asset. And so suddenly I've got this nice triangle where I looked at every aspect of the system, which then enabled me to be in innovation roles, because suddenly I've got the foundation of an end-to-end system, end user, space asset, operations and services. Now I can be the one who go and say and challenge, can we do this differently? Where can we innovate? And you learn about yourself as well. You learn that I am, for example, more of an explorer. I like to start from a blank sheet of paper and come up with people to build those new ideas. So it's a combination of building the foundations and mapping those foundations you need, and also mapping that with what are the things you really enjoy. So slowly you get more, in my case, more innovation kind of role, and you prove more and more that that's where you're comfortable. And then over time, I realized actually what I really like is also helping others grow. So I like the manager kind of expertise, which I couldn't have imagined I liked maybe at the beginning of my career. So I think it's something you have to assess over time, your goals, and where do you feel the most happy and comfortable. Yeah.
True, and you need to also be flexible.
Yeah.
You're a great example of actually shaping the career that you wanted to achieve. It's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you think was the biggest difficulty during your career when you were changing the positions?
The biggest difficulty is it's not natural to jump from working on a terminal development to being in charge of the biggest satellites of the company as a project manager. Even though it's space, there's nothing in common between developing a satellite terminal and the satellite itself. And so it's doing those jumps in from one side of the industry to another, being able to sell myself and kind of pretending I can do it, and then learn on the job. And the first years of each one of those roles, I am completely outside my comfort zone. I suffer 100% of the imposter syndrome and not being good enough, and how am I going to be taken seriously, and my self-confidence take a slap every single time. But that's how I grow. That's how I grew from all those experiences. So transitioning from one role to another and getting completely outside your comfort zone is where you expand the most, but that's also where you're the most uncomfortable.
Thank you for sharing that. It is very important to talk about it, especially that a lot of women go through similar experiences, having a job that you just start and everybody in the team is actually more experienced than you.
Yeah.
And how do you think important is the education in achieving your career goals?
It's the foundation for me. So education is, I was lucky to go in a very good quality school in Morocco, going through the whole French education system. And those gave me a very solid foundation. Now there's other elements, and I kept, by the way, educating myself. I mean, I've just finished 2 years ago an executive MBA in Cambridge. So I keep on learning, even right now during the COVID lockdown. I'm going on Coursera or Harvard or Oxford business schools trainings, because they're all free at the moment. And I think I will never stop that acquisition of new skills. But education also happens at home, in my opinion. And I think the aspects that parents also have a very important role in is having this mindset that you have the choice, you have to open all your possibilities, and every possibility is there for you, and the only person who's stopping you from succeeding is probably yourself. I can't, because of the education, because of the culture, because we kind of influenced, especially as women, to be stuck into a perception of how success looks like. So I would say, if you want to be successful in your career, you have to define for yourself what success looks like. How can you still be a woman? How can you still be aligned with your core values, and use education as a means to an end, but aligned with your definition of success?
It's true. And something important that you mentioned is that if something is stopping someone from achieving anything, it's probably, it's probably inside. But still, space industry only comprises of 20% of women. So do you think that space industry is attractive for women?
Well, if it's been only 20% for the last 30 years and it hasn't moved, there is, of course, an issue. And being attractive to women, it starts for me in if we want to change that, because in my case, I've always been in the kind of 15 to 20% female representation throughout my education, throughout my jobs. And still today, I'm probably the only woman in the room 90% of the time, if not more. And in order to change that, you have to look at it from how do you attract those women? How do you make space attractive to and kind of attractive to women in STEM in general. But then is also how do you retain them? And very often they drop out. And how do you grow them? And so all those policies needs to be put in place. And yeah, we talk about quotas, for example. That's one way. There's other ways as well in terms of also we talk about mentoring a lot, how to help a woman grow. I think what is even more important is coaching and sponsoring. So in my opinion, because it's a men's club most of the time, those men have a role as well to play in sponsoring those women they can spot as having a high potential and giving them those opportunities. Because we have a societal context where we kind of not putting ourselves forwards as women. So okay, we need to work on women in getting them that self-confidence, which comes with education at home as well. But the other aspect is for those who are already in this power position to kind of take those women and give them those roles and help them grow in the company. So yeah, still a lot of work to do.
It is quite a lot. And on that note, I would like to ask you, what is your contribution to make space industry more diverse and inclusive?
So I did a lot, I think, which is and it grew. Today I founded the Women's Network at INMARSAT, but I didn't got there suddenly. I started by being a mentor of a women entrepreneur in Africa through the Cherry Blair Foundation. Then I started giving talks to boys and girls who are interested in STEM education. In schools and in kind of universities and higher degrees. I slowly got there to the point where I launched the Women's Network and created this community where we focus on, first of all, the awareness, because no one is really here to be blamed, but more making sure that you're aware of the various unconscious bias that people have, the benefits of diversity and inclusion. And the inclusion part for me is as important then as the diversity part. And then creating a community where women can kind of share experiences and lessons learned with each other, and giving the women the tools for them to grow. So those tools, some women are not interested. They're happy where they are and they don't want more, and others want to grab those tools to negotiate a better role. So this is what we've been doing as part of the Women's Network, is awareness, community, giving the tools for growth. And the final pillar was about focusing around giving back to society. So having all those role models that we spot within the company under the spotlight, but also kind of shining in front of a room of boys and girls who are interested in space.
Certainly, that's an outstanding contribution. And I think the network and the mentoring is really giving the support to women to not be afraid to start in the space industry, which is, we can say, male dominated at the moment.
Yeah.
So what is your advice to people, to young women that want to start in the space industry?
My advice is kind of a combination of things to be aware of. One is, yes, work on your foundations, work on your education, work on yourself and understand what you want to achieve and what a balanced life looks like. Because sometimes we often have role models, women who are very career oriented, and sometimes they have sacrificed a lot of things on the way. So I'd like to bring a bit of balance into this, which is also think about your life as a whole, not just your career. And then is emphasize on the network, maybe I would say, is your connections at school, at university, or through a mentor, whatever it is, and will help you understand the ecosystem, what space means. And for me, the definition of space at the beginning of my career was very, very narrow. I didn't realize what space meant for me. And if you're a computer engineer, for example, you still have so much importance in the space industry, because nowadays everything will be automated, artificial intelligence will play a big role, for example, and therefore the profile we would imagine in the past, which was more RF engineers, how to build hardware, etc., today are much more computer science focused, as an example. So don't think space is such a narrow field, because it can touch so many sets of skills.
It is, and it makes it really interesting as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yasrine, for your advices, for your great words, and for sharing your experience. It was wonderful to host you in Space Chats.
Thank you very much. It was very exciting to do it.
And for our viewers, I invite you to watch other episodes of Space Chats too. Thank you.
Thank you.